Today I look at one of the most horrifying movies ever to come out of the 80s. Hello and welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today it is Mike's Pick Monday, and the film that I have selected for review today is the 1985 feature, The Care Bears Movie. Now, surface level, what I found about this movie is that it's basically a morality tale that tries to smack the viewer with a sledgehammer rather than have an intelligent conversation. This movie's full of dubious relationships that focus on empty promises and a singular vapid statement expressed with the talent and tact of a teenager clawing at a bra clasp, I care. That being said, I didn't find it to be absolutely terrible. I'll go ahead and throw all the scores up here, and the one thing that you may notice is the intent category. I'm going to get to that one, because I have a theory about this movie, and I'm going to express it in a little bit. But this film follows the Care Bears, the titular characters in this, which started out as greeting card characters from the American Greetings Corporation, and made their way into cartoon land. I believe it was Saturday morning cartoons. And then a feature-length motion picture in 1985, followed by many to follow from there. And in this, they have the superpower of caring a lot. In fact, they live in the land of care a lot. And that's ultimately their goal. They want to get people to care. What that actually means in real-world practical terms is up to anybody's definition. But in this one, they target two sets of children. One of them is a brother and sister of Kim and Jason, who are gruff. They are jaded. They have their defensive walls put up. They don't care. They don't want friends. Care Bears come down, introduce themselves, say, we want to be your friend, and we don't want friends. Say, but we care about you. And they say, okay, we'll be friends. That's it. That was it. Kim and Jason were easy ones, easy little targets to be drawn into the Care Bear cult there. And from then on, they had friends and they were happy. The other group of children, well, a singular child, is Nicholas, who is a magician's apprentice. And he's a good kid overall. Means well, works hard, underappreciated, so on and so forth. And he's a little bit of a tougher nut to crack, despite the fact that he's a little bit nicer in the first place. Being underappreciated, he is working for the Great Fettuccine, and a trunk comes across his way full of magician's items, and in it he finds a book. And this book appears to be a living entity of a spirit that is malicious in nature and gets Nicholas to start his foray into the dark arts of magic. And in doing so, corrupts him, and he causes, on a small scale and then on a global scale, people not to care, which immediately is perking the ears of the Care Bears, and they want people to care. And that starts a whole showdown, and the movie continues on from there. The Care-a-Lot is in trouble. Their care meter is cracking. They must find Nicholas and get him to care and get the world to care. So they travel on a boat made of clouds and get lost, and they wind up in the Forest of Feelings, whereupon they come across the Care Bear cousins, who are similar in nature, just without little thingies on their tummies, and not bears, but the same ilk. They're cousins. It stands to reason. And until the showdown happens, and they care really hard, and that fixes a lot. So there's a lot of plot holes in this one. First of all, how do they walk on clouds, much less navigate a river on a boat made of clouds? There's just not a lot that makes sense there. How do they define care? What good is care? Do you empathize, sympathize, care with action, care without action, thoughts and prayers, or actually pitching in and getting your hands dirty and bloody to help somebody out? What is care? In this case, it seems to be a magical beam emanating from their stomachs into whatever entity they're caring about, and that is their Care Bear stare. And how do they stare out of their abdomen in the first place? That's another plot hole. Is it some sort of magical gut flora? Do they eat Activa a lot? Are they on the Jamie Lee Curtis yogurt plan? Who knows? What is the power of the Care Bear cousins? They don't have the Care Bear stare. They have the Care Cousins call, which basically means we're going to oink and roar and whinny. And that's going to be their superpower. I don't know. There's just a whole lot of plot holes in this one, and ultimately I had to give it 6 out of 25. I just really couldn't find a whole lot there that was meaty enough to grasp onto in terms of, well, first of all, coherent linear plot. A lot of the scenes in this one seem to just serve the next one. We need to get to this point. How do we make that happen? Well, here's an easy way, so let's do that. There was nothing about this that challenged the viewer or challenged the characters. For a movie with supposedly worldwide cataclysmic circumstances, it sure felt like the stakes weren't conveyed very properly. It seemed to be very confined to just the Care Bears and Nicholas and the conflict within there. They had some help from Kim and Jason, but this was apparently taking place all over the world, and it didn't show any of the effects of the good people of New Delhi not caring or the good people of Seoul, South Korea not caring. It didn't feel very big in terms of what was going on, despite the fact that it was global. So yeah, plot, I really couldn't give it a whole lot. Now, the intent, 24 out of 25. And let me explain this, is because I think that this movie might have been more clever than it let on. I think that we need to look underneath the surface, and I think this may have been the case, and I'm going to risk this category, because honestly, the 24 out of 25 only falls in line with this theory. If I'm wrong on this one, then it is deserving of less than this. But I'm going to hold true to this, and feel free to join in. If you feel differently, feel free to join in. But I feel like maybe this was a dissection of the classism, especially prevalent in the 80s, separating the act of caring versus the act of action. And I think on that level, it was actually pretty brilliant. This is a war on apathy and not a war on issues. This could just as easily have been called Thoughts and Prayers Bear Movie. If they have a circumstance where somebody is in mortal danger, and it's like thoughts and prayers, and then that fixes everything. And I think that if that's putting up a magnifying glass to society as a whole and how we address issues with our thoughts and prayers and caring, then I think that this is a brilliant film, and I think that this really highlights the hollowness of anti-apathy versus action. And I hold true to, I think that deserves some nods. And if my theory is true, then I think this film was absolutely brilliant. The one thing that prevented it from getting a perfect 25 score is Mickey Rooney was in this one, and I honestly feel like he was a little bit underutilized. I would have loved to have seen more Mickey Rooney, and I think it would have sold the movie a little bit better. The voice acting in this one was acceptable, so acting got a 6 out of 25. The technical got a 5 out of 25. This had some nice Don Bluth accents to it, but for the most part, had a Saturday morning cartoon kind of feel to it. Just a slight hair better than that, but not a whole lot. So this gets a total of 41 out of 100 points. Honestly, for a horror movie, I really thought this one would be scarier than it was, but I still maintain that if this was a reverse mirror dissection of society, then this was a great movie to watch. And on that note, I would absolutely recommend it. If I'm wrong in my theory and it was simply surface level, then it was pretty vapid. So I think, take it as you will, watch this movie, let me know what you think of it, and I'm curious to start a discussion about 1985's The Care Bears movie. That's my review of it. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.